Hi, good morning from Malaysia. I'm Zarith. Uh, we have our friend here, a Swedish friend we have in Pattaya, Mr. Stuart Ward. I have the whole of his profile with me in front of me. It's too many to read, and we are going to talk about the Harry and Meghan interview, as well as some the Facebook banning and some monarchy stuff. So it's going to be quite interesting. And I've met Mr. Stewart here. Uh, was it last year or the year before?
We've met a couple of times at different UN meetings, haven't we? But
Yes.
the most recent one was a little bit more than a year ago, the end of February, beginning of March last year.
Yes, yes, yeah. It was at the Palestine
Yes,
campaign
on
event.
Palestine.
Correct.
Yes, it was in Kuala Lumpur, of
In
course,
Kuala
as
Lumpur.
well.
And Stuart is the PSC chairman in Thailand.
Yeah, I was before, and I founded the group, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, PSC Thailand. That's correct.
Right.
In December 2007, to be
Wow,
exact.
wow, that's quite a while ago. So I'll just
Yes.
get you to introduce yourself. It's easier that way.
Well, you mentioned Zarith yourself. You received my CVs and personal information, and there's one hell of a lot of it because I'm very old, and therefore I've been able to achieve or not achieve a lot in my life. So
Illustrious,
yeah,
I would
well, that's
say.
very kind of you to put it that way. You're being very flattering now. But sure, I've been around and done a lot. I come actually, and you called me Swedish. Yes, I am Swedish. I have Swedish citizenship, but of course, I'm born and brought up in the UK, in the southwest of England, and I come from a working class home. Grew up on a council estate, but succeeded in becoming a chartered accountant, which people coming from council estates were never supposed to do, but I did, and I used that to go to my role model. I started getting interested in politics when I was very young, like 14, 15, and I joined the British Labour Party. And we always had as our role model Sweden. Whenever we looked at social reforms and politics in general, we always had Sweden as a role model. So I decided then one day I'm going to go and live there to see what makes it tick for myself, which I eventually did, having qualified as a chartered accountant. Went with Price Waterhouse, as it was called then, Price Waterhouse Coopers as they're called today, and and drifted eventually. I don't know how many of your viewers and listeners out there are old enough to know of the British comedy series Monty Python's Flying
Yes.
Circus, but one of their standard sketches was, or most well-known sketches, was the chartered accountant, the dull and boring chartered accountant, longing to be anything but a dull and boring chartered accountant, a lion tamer, brain surgeon. I became a radio DJ, and
Yes, it
and
drifted
so I
that
got it.
way.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So I got into the music and entertainment industry that way, and ended up being in it for sort of 25 or more years.
Wow,
And
it's
yes, and
amazing.
becoming a Swedish citizen eventually. So I have two citizenships, two passports. I often joke that if I'm ever on a hijacked plane, it's the Swedish passport I'm going to show the hijackers and not my British one.
Ah.
And even if I tell them, look, I'm on your side, they will say to me, that's what they all say, off with his head. So yeah.
And you
So
do
yes,
speak a bit of
basically,
Swedish as well, isn't it? And
I speak Swedish fluently. Yes,
yes,
I do.
and Thai.
I have a Swedish partner. I have a Swedish partner. Of course, we speak Swedish with each other. I worked
Mhm.
for the Swedish embassy in Bangkok for 12 years, actually.
Right.
Um,
But when
yeah,
you
and my
think,
last two
what do
years.
you think in what language or dream?
That's a very good question, Zara. Well, I can put the same question to you because you're working in both Malay and English, at least I know, and so I could put the same question to you. What? I'll let you answer it first.
Right. It's a mixed bag, really. Sometimes it's gibberish because this is why it's called the gibberish gabber because
Theme
I
today,
am one.
yes.
Yes. Well, but most of it because it is in English actually, but sometimes I dreams in Malay. But recently I had a dream with my late grandmother, and I've no idea what she was talking. This just completely, like an alien thing. But she died in 2002. So, and she was doing a selfie with me. I was like, "Oh, grandma, you know how to do selfie?" I was like, "Oh, okay." So it was a nice, but I think I would speak more English and think in English as well, and and
Yeah.
organize the time in English and stuff. I think I'm British inside a bit.
Yeah, I've understood that. I've understood that. And
How,
you've lived in the UK, right?
I lived in UK since 2002, 2003, yeah. And for 10, 12 years on and off, and then Middle East, and then Singapore, Indonesia, and Australia, 2014, 15, and 2019. I'm hoping to go back to Australia, but it's a bit messy, as you know. It's a pandemic, and yeah,
Yes.
we'll we'll,
Yeah,
we'll
well,
wait for
that
that.
problem you'll have anywhere. That problem you'll have anywhere, right? But
Yeah.
if I answer your question, because it's a real good one, you know that when you're putting the question, when you are involved in using different, because I'm using Thai as well. You see, I do speak
Mm.
Thai. Not I would not claim that I am I can do it fluently in quite the same way as English or Swedish. But I can certainly I do speak to Thai people in Thai and get by on doing that. They don't have to speak English with me when it comes to like daily use, put it that way. And so I'm even thinking in Thai sometimes. But and when I was living in Sweden, of course, my main thinking language was Swedish. But having come to Thailand 16, almost 17 years ago, and using English that much more, and now Thai as well. I mean, it's a real mixed bag of when I'm thinking. Sometimes I'll be thinking in Thai, sometimes I'll be thinking in Swedish, but relatively speaking, I'm thinking in English more. For example, if I was
Mm.
doing this interview with you when I was still in Sweden, even though you can never in inverted commas never get away from the English language
Yeah,
because
yeah.
obviously it's dominating
Innate.
everywhere. Yes, thanks to the colonialism, but also American influence and so on. So in Sweden too, and I was working in the I ended up, as I say, working in the music and entertainment industry. So that is a very English language industry. And but despite that, sometimes I would be stuttering, and looking for words in English, which I
Exactly.
don't tend to do as much. So if I apologize in advance if I'm going to be doing that today with you. But
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
but
It's
as I say,
gibberish.
since coming, well, it's got to be gibberish anyway. That's right. So fair enough. I don't have to make excuses. But since coming to Thailand and relatively speaking, more English being used, I'm not. I'm not actually using gibberish or stuttering over my words in quite the same way as I could do sometimes when I was living in Sweden.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. And having lived in Sweden, so we're gonna get to the monarchy kind of issues, and now
Yes.
you are in Thailand, also a kingdom.
Hmm. I
I
seem
am
to
in
choose
Malaysia.
monarchies. I
Huge.
seem to choose monarchies for my residency. Yes.
Yeah, you only choose that. So next probably be Japan or somewhere,
No,
or
I don't.
Bhutan.
I'm not. No, I'm not. Well, who knows? Zarith, who knows? But I will say right away that I am at heart really a Republican, not
Right.
of the American kind, certainly not of the American kind, more of the Irish kind.
All right. Okay. The Irish Republican Army.
Yeah, yeah, yes. I very much I want to see United Ireland, for example, one day. I think it's ridiculous that Ireland, I know this is not the topic, but it is connected with our topics for today.
Correct.
And I think it's ridiculous that the island of Ireland should be still divided. It's totally ridiculous. Anyway, that's maybe a subject for another time.
Okay, what is your opinion on the monarchy itself, actually? What is your, do you like them? I mean, you've already told me that you're more of a Republican, but
Hmm.
do you see any good things that come up from it? Having lived in the UK, for example, and Sweden.
Yeah. you know, I mean, the people who defend monarchy, especially in the UK, is that it brings in so much money into the UK economy, because, you know, especially like Americans, they have their country is a republic, but they love royalty, and I get that, I get those arguments, but my counter argument to that is that you know, at the end of the maybe in the beginning, if the UK was to become a republic and abolish the monarchy, possibly for a while there would be tourists that don't want to come in the same way, but the history of it all is still there. You still have the Tower of London, for example, and all the rest of it, you know, even if they are not actually there as monarchs or royal family. And it's easy, as I see it, it's very easy, especially for the UK, which does have so much history, and is so becomes such a diverse, multicultural society, which is wonderful, and that can be used to get the tourists as well, more than maybe they do already. So I think it's a false argument, really, in the long term anyway. There might be a short-term loss, but certainly in the long term, the UK has got so much going for it to get tourists and other things. Because the thing is this, Zarith, that monarchy as a principle cannot be defended in a democracy. If we talk about our countries being democracies, then you cannot defend a monarchy, because no office or you should not be born into any office. That's very undemocratic. You know, if you hold public office of any kind, and the Queen still has the right, you know, she has to sign off acts of parliament and stuff in the UK anyway, and so that gives her one hell of a lot of power. And of course, there's loads of power that she can and does, we know, exercise behind the scenes that you never see. You know, she exerts a lot of influence on the running of the country. Correct. And that's not right. She has no right. She should have no right to be able to do that, having been born into the office that she's holding. So as a matter of principle, you can't defend it. I understand at the same time that it's popular, because it seems to me that far too many people today, you know, they talk about identity politics. People don't seem to be satisfied enough with the identity that they already have. And this is, I think this is a result of our consumer society and extreme capitalism. And I think all those things combined make for this. People seem to be very insecure, you know, far too many people anyway, insecure. So they have the need to look up to a monarch, you know, a king or a queen or a prince or a princess or whatever. Yeah, exactly. It's a symbol, and it's a form of escapism. But it's also an expensive escapism, apart from the principle, the you know, the awful principle of it that I just outlined. It costs money as well, you know. And it's not only the Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh and Charles and Camilla and God knows who. It's not just that. There's all these hangers on as well, and those, and in the UK, something that I, growing up there, reacted to was we had all these princes and kings and
earls and lords.
Yeah, from other countries that have become republics. You know, we had the King of Romania and Serbia, some Prince of Serbia, I remember growing up in the UK, that I really reacted. I thought, well, why are we hosting, and the former King of Greece, with the, you know, that happened during my lifetime in the 60s. There was a military coup in Greece, and at the same time, they abolished the monarchy. So, you know, not until quite recently, Greece was actually a monarchy. And so he ends up in the UK as well, because he's related somehow to, I think, the Duke of Edinburgh, if I remember correctly. Yeah, correct. Yeah, and you know, so all these, and also all the dukes and duchesses. There are the Duke of this and the Duchess of that. It's hideous. It's totally hideous. In year 2021, the monarchy is an anachronism. It belongs to times gone by, you know, and let's thank them for some of the stuff they might have done in the past and even perhaps doing today. But at the end of the day, we can manage without it. In fact, it would be a much healthier and a proper democracy without it.
Yep. Okay. We're just going to take a few minutes break, and we'll come up to my next question. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. It is already recording. Okay. Voila.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So here we are. We are on the second part of this interview. So you've not seen the interview, right, with Harry and Meghan, but you know the gist of it.
Well, I've seen the most of it. I've seen the most of it. Yes. You know,
What do you think of it?
well, oh my goodness. We've had time to reflect on it now, actually, which is very good, because I think when you see something like that and all the, hue and cry and the media reactions going on around you, we're all very affected and influenced by that. Sometimes positively, sometimes negatively, but whatever, it's more difficult to make your own judgment when there's all that, as I say, the whole hysteria about it going on, whereas now it's we don't have that, and we've been able to reflect. So having reflected on it, I mean, Oprah Winfrey is always Oprah Winfrey, but it's very speculative. Let's face it, the whole thing is so speculative from Harry and Meghan's side and from Oprah Winfrey's side, and they're making money like crazy, all of them, on it, and we have to be aware of that and think about that too. Nothing is ever, well, maybe I shouldn't generalize in that way, but very often things are not what they appear to be on the surface. There is so much more lying behind it, and definitely in these sort of contexts you can be pretty sure of that. So, but it was good that it was done. It's as a Republican of the Irish kind, I have to keep saying that so that nobody thinks I would in any way be in any way wanting to relate to the American Republicans. As a Republican, it was kind of a useful thing to have, and I think Meghan is doing a lot of good for the Republican cause in the UK.
She could literally ended the empire.
Well, she's carried on to a certain extent. She's continuing. Well, that's a cat. That's not a dog. Yes. You talked about dog walking. That's a cat.
Oh yeah, it's a cat.
What's the cat's name?
It's called Juno.
Juno.
Yeah.
And Juno realizes we're talking about Juno.
Yeah, right? He's lovely. He's got a very important task to do, which is to stop the other lady cat to moan, because the other ones are on a heat at the moment, but he's too fat to perform it. We are encouraging him to get the job done.
To put them out of their misery, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? What's going to happen if you also get a dog? What's going to happen?
No, I'm not getting a dog.
Okay, you're not going to get a dog. I kind of got the impression.
I just like the idea of it.
Fantasizing it. Yeah. Okay. So you just leave it at fantasizing about it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So shall I continue about?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. So I think Meghan is basically doing a great job of continuing where her deceased mother-in-law left off, Diana.
Correct.
Because Diana was a humane. I mean, she thought. My impression anyway was. And here is something positive about a royal anyway.
Yeah.
She at least, concretely and directly was using her royal aura and personality and position that she had because of that for very, very good causes. I mean, I fondly remember, and people can today poo-poo it, but, at the time when she hugged an HIV positive young African girl, and the whole thing that she did for HIV/AIDS, and other things.
There's too many.
Yes, she was using her position in such a wonderful way, and whereas the vast majority of them couldn't give a damn. They just like going to their cocktail parties and being royal, and without any thought about the people that have granted them their status, i.e. the ordinary people, in this case of the United Kingdom. So,
the people who funded them.
Yeah, exactly. The people are also funding them, but also allowing them to have that status. You know, as long as the British people agree to them having their privileged positions, they'll have them. You know, but when the British people start getting wise to how stupid it all is and how unnecessary it all is and how unfair and unjust that it all is, they will lose those positions. And I hope that'll happen in my lifetime. I'm not sure it will, but certainly we're getting there. We seem to be getting there slowly but surely. Whilst we're talking about the UK, you see, we talked, we kind of referred to it earlier, Zarith, the country I moved to, Sweden, is also a monarchy. But you see, there's a big difference in the UK monarchy and the Swedish monarchy.
Yes.
I am much more favorably inclined to the Swedish one, even
monarchy.
though in principle, monarchy is wrong, as we established from the beginning of this chat. You know, we've established that. And against that background, I am prepared to, having experience living in countries with one the UK monarchy and one the Swedish monarchy. I think that they've done a very good job in Sweden, yet another good job in their political life of democratizing, if you like, democratizing their monarchy, because you don't have this distance. You don't have this putting them on a pedestal in the same way in Sweden as they still do in the UK. You know, they are at the end of the day just human beings like all the rest of us. You know, they're not divine in any way. They're human beings made of flesh and blood, with feelings, with good qualities and bad qualities like everybody else. You know, that's it. And in Sweden, they've kind of accepted that, and
they are working royals, right?
And they are very much working royals, who associate with their subjects, you know, much more than you know, and in a different way, in a more, say, a more human, democratic way, as I would term it, than the UK royals do.
By the way, I'm listening to you on just one side of the ear because I was wrestling the cat. The cat was snowing, and
I was.
You saw that?
I was being inspired. I was being inspired with your cat wrestling. I can tell you. So thank you for that, Zarith.
Oh, it's back now. Okay, it's good.
So in Sweden, there are aristocrats, you know, but it doesn't really mean anything. They have certain names, their surnames. You can tell if somebody is from the aristocratic class once upon a time by their name. But that doesn't mean, as it would do in the UK in a completely different way, and in many other countries too, where they have royalty and their monarchies. In Sweden, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that person with that aristocratic noble name is anything, if you see what I mean, in society, has a privileged position in society. It's not, it can be, but it's not necessarily so. You don't have, if you like, the old school Thai network that you still have in the UK. You know, where people can be utterly stupid, but because they come from the upper or upper middle classes with certain names as well, and like deeds of and castles and things that are in their ownership. But they're totally stupid people, but they will still get fancy jobs and good paying jobs, high ranking jobs in industry, for example, purely because of their birth, not because of that they have earned it and that they are capable and that they have the talent for what it is they're doing.
I give you a little insight because I actually went to the Harry and Meghan's wedding. I was in Windsor at the time. I was not like what in the attendees, you know. I was just among the people who cheered, you know, and
the rabble outside watching on.
Correct.
Trying to look over the wall, you know, to see what they could see.
Yeah, but I did actually encounter the UK royal family. For example, the one that was sticks in my mind was the famous one is denigrated now. What's his name?
Andrew.
Yeah. Prince Andrew.
He is Zarith. He is infamous. Both famous and infamous. And why the hell is he not being prosecuted? Why the hell is he not being detained? Any other normal, any one of us, accused of what he's been accused of, where there is clear evidence as well, we would be detained we would have been detained immediately and have to go through a court process. You're innocent until you're proven guilty, of course, and even they. But this is another point to be made as part of this chat. Sorry, I'm talking. I'm using. We can go back to your being at Harry and Meghan's wedding in just a moment. No problem. But I must make this point whilst we're on it, and that is that no one in a democracy, if a country calls itself a democracy, no one is above the law.
Correct.
And this guy is being put above the law, and that is not right. Again, he's being put above the law purely because of his birth, and then because he's called a prince.
Correct. And the way that I interviewed him, he was abysmal. He doesn't know anything. He was the envoy for the trade and investment, but he was just like, just ask the minister and just ask, he was just there, I don't know, to officiate things, and wouldn't even take a proper question, from us as a reporter. So it was quite, diabolical. It reflected poor on the royal family as well as the British government to have him, so that was not a good encounter for me. But I did have some encounter with the Malaysian royal families, in London and some other places. So they are also not as, I have to be really diplomatic again, because they are the defender of faith. But all I say is, whatever the events that I was, invited, it was less than very Islamic, I would say. So, so what they wanted to show how Islamic they are back home, but it's a different thing when they're, abroad, I think, like,
they can let loose.
Exactly. Yes. Actually, I was interested to talk about the mental health issue and racism as well, because when I was in the UK, as a reporter, I was being literally shoved, like by the Metropolitan Police. Well, it's a bit more than that, actually. I was supposed to record myself at the Remembrance Day, during the Remembrance Day. So I have all my papers and everything. And I did ask the police that if I would be able to record it myself and this, and then he said, don't do it over there on that fence, do it over the other fence. So I went to the other fence and I started recording and stuff. And then like the same guy, the same police officer, I would say a white police officer, came to the other side and then literally like shove everything, like throw everything on the floor. And I was like, and he has a woman, policewoman with him, and she was like, I think it was his boss, it was her boss, rather. So she was shocked to see why would he do that, and then she wouldn't say anything, and I just pick up the papers and microphones and everything, and my phones and stuff. And then he said that you can't do it here as well, and I was like, okay, so that was like literally a bitter experience I had. But I'm sure that there is a racism anywhere in the world, especially in the royal family too. I don't think we should take it lightly that there isn't any kind of a degree, because they actually are employing a diversity czar, whatever that means. So they're not denying it, that there is some elements of racism in the royal institution.
Right. Well, the Duke of Edinburgh has many times made racist remarks during his lifetime, which is why the suspicion is strong that he was the one questioning or wondering about the color of Harry and Meghan's baby's skin. That it could well have been the Duke of Edinburgh, because again, we wouldn't put it past him in that he's made comments before that are overtly racist, and I
mean, if you heard it for one time, maybe it's an excitement thing, I would think it's that way, like people would be interested to know the color of the skin because it's an exciting thing, But I mean, to
Yeah,
have it
for a
repeatedly,
positive
maybe
reason.
correct.
Yeah, for positive. Yeah.
If you, I
And
don't know. Yeah.
in his case, he didn't want a dark-skinned member of the family, basically, you know, to show the diversity and the multiculturalism that Meghan is bringing to the royal family, you know, and
But it's
this
already been
coming.
diluted, you know. Archie is already very white to me. He looks very
Yeah,
white.
well, yeah, exactly. She's not wholly. She's not like wholly black then
Yeah.
anyway. You know, to start with. But you see, we can hear ourselves. You and I. We can hear ourselves how hideous this whole nonsense is, and how totally unnecessary. And this coming from, you know, these people are heading up the Commonwealth, of
Yeah.
which Malaysia is also a member,
Part of it, yes.
and many other. And the fantastic thing about the Commonwealth is that something good was done of something really awful, i.e. colonialism. But the Commonwealth, I've always seen the Commonwealth as like in a way, a positive thing, bringing together all these different skin colors and ethnic groups and racial groups and countries around the world, languages, backgrounds, where we have this thing in common, that we have the English language in common because it was forced on others. Yes, true, but it's given us today, you know, like you and I are able to relate to one another, which we wouldn't have been able to do in quite the same way if, you know, there hadn't been a British Empire. Now, again, it's easy for me to say because I'm from Britain. You know, you're from the oppressed people, you're the colonialized, and so I'm trying to get this across as best I can to show that I am not. I hope you and your viewers and listeners have understood that I am not condoning. On the contrary, I condemn colonialism, and we are and the results of it that we still see, the awful results of it that we still see today. The very thing you're just talking about, the systemic racism that yes, there is in the UK as there is in America and in Australia and other places, you know, where whites people are dominating, but where the societies are multicultural and very diverse and becoming more and more so, where these wasps and these, you know, these white men often have to get used to the idea that all these societies are changing for the better, and where Harry and Meghan's case is, you know, a more high-profile example of the increasing multiculturalism and diversity in many societies that have got used to the idea previously of domination by white men.
And I've had some, well, quite of a tumultuous and challenging conversations with some friends who are on the other side of the arguments of these issues, because they think it was just, you know, two very privileged, wealthy people, you know, going on interview and stuff, and they're not gonna be starved at any time, like most of us, you know, in this pandemic. It is true, you know, that is, you know, it is a fact. But but the thing is, what she, I'm not her supporters or what. I'm on the fence with this. But I think what she spoke was quite valid about the mental health issues and the racism. You know, that it is clear as you know, as the water. You know, like it is unfortunate that she had to face that, and she would have been such an amazing ambassador because, you know, herself as being biracial, she could have represented 60, 70, 80% of the Commonwealth, which is, you know, my ethnic minority, you know. So
yes, exactly. Colored people, they're all colored in one way or another. The vast majority of the citizens of the Commonwealth. Yes.
And I'm looking at you. You look very red to me. You're one of the color.
Yeah, maybe it's because you're getting me worked up. We got onto the subject of racism and stuff, and that
you're changing colors now.
If there is something that is guided me and has been a major issue for me in my political life and my political thinking, is, of course, my own background and social justice for all, irrespective of skin color, social justice, whatever class or ethnic group you come from, but also racism. I abhor racism in all its forms and from wherever it comes. And that's why I react so violently when I'm being accused of being anti-Semitic, because I criticize and question Israel.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, no, I'm getting onto a different subject now.
Yeah.
But getting back to Harry and Meghan, Zarith, I agree with your friends. I do. I'm really on the same side of them in that, as I said earlier, when it comes to them and all royals everywhere, they should not be holding their privileged positions and all that goes along with that. It's totally undemocratic and an anachronism in year 2021. But whilst we still have it, and the vast majority, certainly in the case of the UK and in Sweden, actually, the vast majority of Swedes in Sweden and in the UK support the monarchy. And in all of Scandinavia, I think that's Denmark and Norway are also monarchies.
Oh, even in Thailand?
And Thailand is also monarchy. Which here you can't really conduct opinion posing quite the same way as you can in Scandinavia and Europe. But I presume that there would be a majority of Thais right now in favor of retaining the monarchy. I presume so. But so whilst we have it, whilst we have to put up with it in the UK and in Sweden, for example, although it's less a case of putting up with it in Sweden, because, as I say, I do find that the way that Sweden has dealt with its monarchy and changed its status, if you like, made it more, as I've said, to use a term in inverted commas, to democratize it, I can find it more palatable. Whereas the UK one is still, is like it's living as if it was certainly decades, if not hundreds of years ago. And so whilst we have it and whilst they have these privileged positions, when you have someone like Diana before and now Meghan and Harry are doing, using their positions for good things, and actually to give credit where it's due, Prince Charles has also been connected with what I see as very good causes.
Yeah, Princess
he
Trust.
has this thing about, he has this thing about architecture and, that making architecture beautiful, making cities beautiful, rather than anonymous, sterile blocks of flats, that look terrible. If you're going to build blocks of flats, make them attractive, because you can. And that's been, I think, a cause that he's been connected with. But more recently, he's been very much connected with all the plastic in our oceans and doing something about that. And so, credit where it's due. He's been using his position for those good causes, amongst others. So fine, but again,
and he wanted to be called the defender of all faiths rather than, which is what it is reflected in the UK and the wider world, isn't it? Like, I mean,
and,
UK,
and certainly the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
If you extend it to the Commonwealth, they certainly got to be the defenders of all faiths.
Correct. Oh, there is this thing that came up that the palace aides will engage in a listen and learn exercise with a wide variety of speakers, the newspaper said, and the royal will also seek independent views on being more inclusive to ethnic minorities, people with disabilities, and this and that. So I think that there is a good thing that's coming out from this interview, by them going into the right direction.
Absolutely, there are always good and bad things that come out of it, and you've just pointed out some of those good things, that it has forced Buckingham Palace to get streetwise, if you like, to sort of get to bring them down from their ivory tower that they all live in, these people, and to understand the real world, that as it is, and. Yeah, so of course that is something positive that's come out of it, and of course you read out there things that they've listed, and that also encompasses the issue you're also interested in dealing with, mental health.
Correct.
That that Meghan has, talking of Meghan, I think we should be aware. I suspect so. I have no idea, because you know what, Zarith, I'm British, okay, I'm born and brought up in the UK. I cannot tell you how many kids Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh finally had, and certainly not all their grandkids and all the others, you know, the nephews and nieces of, and the dukes and duchesses and the prince and princess. I just know the main ones you get to hear about more often, because I'm just not interested. You know, when I was growing up in the UK, we went to the cinema and we had to stand up for the national anthem. They used to still play the national anthem in those days, and I used to say to my parents, why I don't want to stand up for this thing. I mean, what am I standing up for? What is it representing? And it's representing the oppression against us as we were working class people. And that's why I can relate to ethnic groups and black British, black American, because basically they are being subject to the same kind of discrimination and prejudice as I was as a working class boy growing up on a council estate in the UK. It's exactly the same kind of prejudice and hate and fear and discrimination as people of color and other ethnicities face and are facing, you know. So
when I
just want to say about Meghan,
correct,
let's not assume there have been things said about her, and I'm a great believer in no smoke without fire. And I suspect that she has not always been such a great individual vis-a-vis other people, her colleagues, previous colleagues, and maybe others, and of course towards her father, she's not very nice at all. That is very public. On the other hand, her father, you know, he does seem to be a bit, you know, how can I express it diplomatically? He's a bit different, certainly than her mother, and to maybe the rest of us.
Well, he's selling his stories for the tabloids, which is exactly what's, you know,
yes,
what she didn't want to.
He's doing all right. He's doing very nicely. Thank you very much too, isn't he? He's obviously making a lot of money on this too. And so, and that is how it will be. You know, that is the sort of societies that we live in. Pretty sick societies at the end of the day. Actually, our societies are really pretty sick.
Already,
you know,
yes.
You know? Yes, you know, why are people titillated by reading about Meghan's father and what he has to say about things? And you know, we are even, you know, you are dedicating today our chat really based on that interview with Harry and Meghan. We're granting them, you know, the privilege and kind of in many ways indirectly at least supporting the privileged status that they have.
Yes, right. Yes, I wanted to actually, we're gonna like end this session soon because you're gonna have your appointment later, and I wanted to also thank you for your time and to bear with me and your patience, you know, because I'm not used to this technical stuff. We've got our technical czar behind me.
Yes,
and
thank Henry very much for that.
I hope to see you soon. Oh, but I just remembered now the point when I had to froze stand up in the Lumpini Park in Bangkok. I think it was about 6 p.m. when the national anthem was being played. I thought that was quite nice because, you know, even
well, it's the same if you're on the Sky Train and you're like you're rushing to get home and you to go through the turnstiles or to up the escalator to get to the platform, or you're on the platform, you're expected to freeze and stand whilst they play the national anthem at 8 in the morning and at 6 in the evening. Yes.
Oh wow, really? That's interesting.
Yeah,
we don't have such thing over here in Malaysia.
Are you going to be broadcasting this chat now?
Yes.
No, what I mean is what we're talking about, the national anthem here in Thailand being played.
You can edit it if you like.
Well,
I love it. I don't mind it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's harmless. It is harmless. Thing is this, and it's on all radio and TV stations as well at 8 in the morning, 6 in the evening. You know, everywhere it will be played. The thing is this, Zarith, related to what we've been talking about, and you know, this is me. You know, you're asking me from my views, so you'll get them as you've been noticing. That I hate nationalism and I hate patriotism. I really do. That related to what I said a moment ago about that I was forced growing up in the UK to in a lot of contexts to have to stand up for the national anthem. And you know, on all this flag waving stuff, you know, people waving their Union Jacks, and like in America, it's extreme. They have the, you know, the stars and stripes on their cars and out there outside their windows of their homes and in their gardens, and you know, this extreme. Again, I started talking about the identity crisis in the world. Far too many people are not satisfied enough with, you know,
whatever
their own,
they have,
the identity that they are, that you are Zarith and I am Stuart, you know, isn't
that's
that
enough?
you know, what that, but they need this identity of that flag, for example, as an example,
to be British or to be American,
and to wave that thing, you know. And I sort of think, well, growing up in the UK, there were lots of, and still today, there are lots of British people I don't relate to and I don't like. In fact, many I actually hate because of what they stand for and the sort of people that they are. If I'm waving that Union Jack, that's embracing them as well. And I'm therefore idolizing or somehow praising or associating myself with people that I in no way have any relationship and don't want to have either. Say, and to a certain extent in Sweden, although I can more easily wave the Swedish flag because Swedes and the way Sweden has been, if you like, socially engineered. But I'm in favor of that because the results have been so nice and humane, you know, and therefore I can wave the Swedish flag in a completely different way than I can the British one. But that flag waving period and this and being a patriot, what does that actually mean? You know, my country, right or wrong? But what about when it is wrong? Should I therefore be still standing up for my country fully because I was born and brought up there? No. Because we're at the end of the day, and I know this sounds a bit cheesy perhaps to some people, but I actually mean it from my heart, that we're members of the human race.
Exactly.
Wherever we are on the planet, you know, we're made of flesh and blood, all of us. Correct. And it's just by chance we were born into the families we were born into, or the countries that we were born in, you know, and so therefore I don't get nationalism and patriotism at all. In fact, I condemn it.
Brilliant. On that note, I'm sure that you're not going to get any Christmas card from some of the royal institutions. I don't think you even care about that.
But you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. Actually, just as a last, you can edit this off if or include it. You choose. You decide. I worked with the royal court. The last job that I had in Sweden was running a music prize that the King of Sweden presented every year.
Wow!
It was seen as a sort of a
Polar music, right? Polar
music.
Yeah.
Polar music prize. That's right.
Yeah.
And that the King of Sweden presents that every year, and I got to know, of course, the King and Queen through my work, and they're, you know, very nice people. You know, they're human beings like anybody else, and all these famous people that I've been working with and interviewing and becoming friends with, and on my radio and TV shows as well during the years. They're just human beings, you know. And if they are in positions like that, actually, it's been my experience that they've been there, done that. They have nothing more to prove. There's nothing more to prove. So therefore, they are really quite sort of what's the word? They're very down to earth, really.
Correct. Even with the Sultan of Brunei, I've met him on occasion, and he was really like warm and friendly, as well as you know, some sultans here in Malaysia. And you know, they're fine. You know, they're not like, you know, doing anything harmful or anything like that, or you know.
In fact, some actually appreciate meeting some of their ordinary subjects, you know, to actually meet somebody who's not sucking up to them because they want something from them or because they're starstruck. A normal person who's just talking to them in a normal way about normal things, you know.
You know, like my cousin warned me before I met the Sultan of Brunei, and she said, don't talk too much because I know you're gonna end up talking to him. And then like I was with my uncle, and then my uncle went first to the palace, and then he knows them and stuff. So I was thinking that the Sultan of Brunei would be the last person that I meet, you know, after the big door open, you know.
Right.
And then he was actually at the first person that you shake hand and stuff. And then I said, stand next to him. And I was like, you know, like, hi, Your Majesty. And I used Your Majesty a lot and stuff. And
Yes, yes.
and then
Yeah,
my uncle, just rolling his eyes like, oh God, here we go again, And I just talked about my life and stuff, and he invited me over for another investiture and things like that. So that
that's
was quite a good
fantastic. That's
moment, and I
fantastic.
haven't had any bad experience having encountered except for Prince Andrew. That's it. It has to be said.
Exactly, yeah, and that is interesting that it was Prince Andrew that was the real negative one, and doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It really doesn't. And again, they can have bad days. You might
Yeah.
happen to meet the Sultan of Brunei, for example, or the King of Sweden, or the
Mhm.
Queen of Sweden, or whoever,
Mhm.
on a bad day. They're allowed to have bad
Exactly.
days as well,
Yeah.
right? Of course,
As
I mean,
we do.
that I should add actually, in all the talk about the monarchies, as individuals, except for Prince Andrew, I really, and maybe the Duke of Edinburgh because he's a racist, and I just don't have any acceptance or patience with racists. You mentioned earlier, Sarah, you had some friends, but I don't think you meant that they were racist. Because if I find somebody I know and I've considered a friend, but if I then find out they're racist, they're not friends anymore. I don't need, they cannot be friends of mine if they have in any way, even an ounce of racism in them. That's it. I'm not that desperate for their friendship, to have to tolerate and accept their racism, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not against any of them otherwise as individuals. They can live their lives as far as I'm concerned, and comfortably. That's okay. But it's the institution as such that I'm against, and this whole idea of being born into
Privilege.
privilege
Yeah.
and a position in society where you actually do determine a lot of things in society, to be born into that whole concept, and the institution of royalty, and even our aristocracy aligned with that's what we should be against, not them as individuals,
Right.
because they can't help it. They were, in fact, I don't think very often they're really happy at all in having been born into that stuff.
Yeah.
They like Harry is now, he's living his life. He's
It's
rejected it.
free.
He has gone that far. Yeah, he can. Well, of
To
course,
an
it'll always
extent.
be a bit tempered. It'll be a bit tempered, but sure, more so than his brother and
Mhm.
many others around him. So, yeah, and again, so as individuals, let them live their lives, for goodness sake.
Exactly. All right then, Stuart. Before we
Yeah.
go, when you're back in Malaysia or in Penang, I went to this cafe in on the other side of Penang in the mainland. It's called People Mountain, People Sea.
Okay.
It's a saying in Chinese actually. It's in
Mm.
Jawi in Sungai Bakap. This cafe is really interesting because it's right in the middle of the road of the busy road, and they have like a hole on the top, and you can have children having classes and stuff, and it's a nice place, and they have these beautiful cakes, the butterfly pea cakes, and amazing service. So if you're available, to you and our millions of listeners and viewers, then please
Yes.
do come to this cafe called People Mountain, People Sea in Sungai Bakap in the Penang, Malaysia.
That's lovely.
So
It's a lovely name. Well, I will seek you out first, Zarith and Kenry, of course, and you can introduce me to it. That'd be the best thing, because you know the sort of things that you should eat and drink there as well, I'm sure.
of course, you'll
I
you'll
get your recommendations.
of course, it's a haven, food haven here, and I can't wait to go and visit you in Pattaya as well.
Well, I was going to add to what you just said. Of course, it goes without saying that even if you're just coming to Bangkok, we can meet up there, because I'm very close to Bangkok
They're
here, and
opening,
I do go to Bangkok regularly still.
yeah, yeah, for
Even though I'm
work and
based
stuff.
here now.
Yeah,
Well, not so much work anymore, but certainly other things. And Bangkok, so I love Bangkok.
yeah,
Bangkok's a vibrant, fantastic city. It is.
it is.
Yeah, I love it. And so we can gladly meet there, and then come down to Pattaya or something,
Yeah,
whatever. I
yeah.
mean, it's.
Took
Thailand
the
is
rickety
a.
bus. I've
I
taken
can
the
be a good
rickety bus.
ambassador. Sorry.
I've taken the rickety bus to Hua Hin. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's just very interesting.
That must have been an experience. Oh my God, that's several hours. That's many hours, isn't it?
It was interesting.
And you
And
survived.
yeah, I did. Yeah, and we will survive. This pandemic thing. I
Yes.
heard that they are opening the border soon, and
Yes.
if I don't go back to either the UK or Australia, I'll be here in Malaysia.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come here anytime, and
Right.
and I hope that I can
I
talk.
do have a place in my heart for Malaysia too. I
Yeah.
really do. I've had really good times there and met you and
Yes.
and other
And we
people.
can
And of
talk
course,
about the Palestine and the
yes,
struggles.
and on that issue, many times I've met Dr. Mahathir Mohamad,
Yeah.
as you know, several
Yeah.
times, and he's an idol of mine. I know there are things to be said, and we
Yeah.
won't go into that right now. But for me, because of his Palestinian,
Yeah.
what he has done for the Palestine, and what Malaysia has
Yeah.
done and is doing for Palestine is fantastic, and
Yeah.
we're humbled. We're
Yeah.
humbled by that.
Yeah. I had the privilege of having his lawyer to represent me in a case which was settled. So yeah, he's a very people person, and yeah,
Yes.
he's one of my idol anyway.
Yes, mine too, because he has done. I've taken this example many times, but I remember so well. Well, one, because of standing up for Palestine when nobody else was.
Yes. Yeah.
Two, telling America where to go.
Mhm.
Not being afraid to tell America that they're wrong. And
Yeah.
those who are just blindly following and sucking up to America are wrong to do so, just
Yeah.
because they're the only or the main superpower in the world.
Yeah.
We
I
can
inter-
manage with
I interviewed
that.
him not long ago, and he told me that he preferred Trudeau than Macron. So that is a big, huge thing. Anyway, I have to bid you.
That was good. That was a scoop. That was a scoop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations. Yeah, me too. It's been great. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Take care.
Take care, the both of you.
Bye.